In 1970, director Robert Altman released a movie called MASH, which was based on the 1968 novel MASH, a novel about 3 Army doctors, which was written by Richard Hooker. The film was one of the most popular releases in the early 70s. It was nominated for 5 Academy Awards, of which it won Best Adapted Screenplay. Audiences were so taken by this black comedy that it led to a TV series of the same name, which was released in 1972. MASH ran for over 10 years until it finally ended in 1983. With a total of 11 seasons and 256 episodes. Over the course of the series, MASH was nominated for a staggering amount of Emmy Awards, over 100. It won 14 of those nominations, including Outstanding Comedy Series and Best Lead Actor in a Comedy Series. MASH ran on CBS, and during its first season, it struggled to keep good ratings due to its time slot. However, after the time slot was moved for the second season, the ratings increased greatly. Today, MASH is recognized as one of the highest-rated TV shows in American history. The television show followed the staff of the 4077th Mobile Army Surgical Hospital, stationed in South Korea during the Korean War. It also served as an allegory for the Vietnam War, which was still raging overseas during the time the show aired. While the show was primarily a comedy, its dark humor also reminded audiences of the horrors of war. The writers of the show carefully walked the line between serious and hilarious. To keep this balance, MASH became the first TV show ever to use more than one plotline. A typical MASH episode featured 2 plots, one of which was dramatic while the other comedic. MASH was an incredibly influential show and paved the way for other incredible TV series to come. One of the most memorable components of the show, however, was its talented cast. Audience members were dismayed to learn that McLean Stevenson, who played Lieutenant Colonel Blake, was leaving the show. In today's video, we're going to take a look at some of the behind-the-scenes secrets of MASH. Make sure you stick around because we're also going to reveal the real reason McLean Stevenson left the show prematurely. Only one of the original film actors was cast in the series. The original MASH film, released in 1970, featured an immensely talented cast, including Donald Sutherland, Michael Murphy, and Tom Skerritt. When the film was adapted into a show, however, producers had to find an entirely new cast. While the original actors enjoyed working on the film, most of them had other projects already in the works, and they weren't ready to sign a contract that required them to film a TV show for several years. Instead, the show's creators cast Alan Alda as Hawkeye Pierce, Wayne Rogers as Trapper John, and Loretta Swift as Hot Lips Houlihan. The only character whose actor didn't change was Radar O'Reilly, who was played by Gary Berghoff in both the film and the series. The real reason McLean Stevenson left MASH. McLean Stevenson's character, Lieutenant Colonel Henry Blake, was arguably the most popular character on MASH during the first 3 seasons. His acting skills set him apart from the rest of the cast, and he even earned a Golden Globe Award in 1974. However, he grew frustrated as his scenes were frequently cut from the show. Most MASH episodes focused on other characters, namely Hawkeye and Trapper John. Stevenson began itching for the limelight. His dreams came true when NBC offered him his very own show after Johnny Carson retired from his position. Believing it was a risk worth taking, Stevenson left MASH after the 3rd season, and the writers killed his character off in a plane crash. This meant that even if his career didn't go well, he wouldn't be able to return to the series as a backup. Unfortunately, Stevenson's gamble didn't exactly pan out. He was given a few shows of his own, but they were ultimately failures, and his unsuccessful career became so apparent that comedians even used his misfortune as a running joke. If Stevenson had stayed on MASH, it would have guaranteed a far longer and more prosperous career. Unfortunately, the risk he took ended up costing him his fame. The laugh track was an unpopular choice. The producers of the show were dismayed to learn that CBS wouldn't allow them to cut the laugh track from their show. They argued a laugh track wouldn't fit the tone, especially since it was rather dark at times. CBS was insistent, however, explaining that every other comedy show used a laugh track at that time. Changing the status quo was risky, especially during the 70s. As a result, the laugh track stayed. Producers were at least granted the ability to remove the laugh track from the operating room, which added a more serious layer to those scenes. As the show cemented itself in American households, however, CBS finally relented and allowed the laugh track to be removed. In DVD episodes, people can now choose whether or not they want to include the laugh track while rewatching their favorite episodes. The name of Radar's teddy bear revealed. Radar O'Reilly's teddy bear was the most iconic and symbolic prop on the show. The fact that O'Reilly still slept with a teddy bear was frequently used as a joke, but it also brought a wholesome and bittersweet element to the show. It represented the way war stripped away people's childhood innocence. While the teddy bear was never given an actual name on the show, the actor behind Radar, Gary Berghoff, once revealed he secretly named it Tiger. After the show ended, the prop mysteriously disappeared for a time. 22 years later, however, however, someone discovered the bear at an auction. A medical student bought the bear for $11,500, but instead of keeping it, he gave the memento to Gary Berghoff himself. This just goes to show how deeply MASH affected its longtime fans. Make sure you stick around until the end, because we're also going to reveal how this incredibly popular show broke records with its iconic series finale. And if you're enjoying this video so far, please take a moment to like it and subscribe to our channel for more. Some of the actors actually served in the Korean War. The fact that some of the actors in MASH actually served in the Korean War brought an element of realism to the show. Lead actor Alan Alda, who played Hawkeye, served in Korea as a junior officer. He also served in the Army Reserve for half a year. This experience is probably a contributing factor behind Alda's convincing performance as Hawkeye. He wasn't the only one in MASH to serve in the war. Jamie Farr, the actor who played Maxwell Klinger, was also a veteran of the Korean War. Furthermore, while neither Wayne Rogers nor Mike Farrell served in the Korean War, they were both war veterans by the time they were cast in MASH. These veterans were all able to contribute their knowledge and experience to the show, and they no doubt helped their fellow actors more accurately portray life in the military. Some historical facts were left out. While MASH was based on the real-life events of the Korean War, the writers of the show had to be careful about what they included. The show was known for bringing up very serious topics, which were often considered taboo at the time. However, certain themes were not allowed to be discussed. The writers had to keep MASH patriotic at all times, meaning they couldn't discuss the more ugly side of the Korean War. America's a country with a long and complicated history. While we'd like to think of ourselves as the good guys, the truth is America's made its fair share of horrible mistakes. Furthermore, the Korean War was filled with horrors and atrocities. A large number of the soldiers drafted would intentionally make themselves sick in hopes of being sent home. However, the writers were not allowed to show this more complicated side of American history, and had to leave out some of the more controversial topics. The finale broke a record. The final episode of MASH was titled Goodbye, Farewell, and Amen. This bittersweet finale broke the record for the highest percentage of audience members with television sets to tune into the show. The episode ran for 2.5 hours, and a total of 125 million viewers sat down to watch it. One urban legend claims so many people sat straight through the episode without using the bathroom that after the show ended, plumbing systems broke down from so many people using the bathroom at the same time. MASH was both extremely popular and incredibly influential, and people today still love watching reruns. Were you more surprised to learn the real reason McLean Stevenson left the show, or that Gary Berghoff secretly named Radar O'Reilly's teddy bear Tiger? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to Factsverse for more.